Hey everyone, today I have for you a video that I've wanted to make, well, since my channel first got attention last year. What I'm going to do here is take a look at every single Heartless design in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. And finally, I'm going to talk about the recolours. Yes, I have a lot to say about these little design changes, so I reckon now's the time to say that lot. I want to be clear, this isn't a video about mechanics or a guide to the Heartless. It's purely a self-indulgent opinion piece on the designs in the game, but hey, I may still mention some cool details along the way. It is me after all. If you want a video of that more informative nature, I highly recommend Regular Pat's Heartless Compendium. It's a thoroughly enjoyable video and it'll tell you everything you could ever need to know. Item drop rates, attacks, where the Heartless spawn and in what quantity. It's very funny too, it's good, watch it if you haven't already. I, on the other hand, will be looking purely at design and naming and all that more artsy business. Let's get on with this. First up, we all know them, we all love them, except for when they slink into the ground during your attempt at a hit. It's the Humble Shadow, indeed named after that penchant for hiding in the ground. I reckon Sark would describe these things as tenacious little bugs. And yeah, they are. Of course, they look adorable, even my stone heart can see that, but as the journal implies, try cuddling one of these and you'll probably get your face scratched off by those claws. Claws they thankfully don't have in the plush version. All this guy can do is ineffectively slap me. I also like how it says found in various places. Real informative, Jiminy. Starting to question your particular skills. A skittish creature, they're the first Heartless we ever encounter, and so the first to showcase yellow glowing eyes that almost all Heartless share. Of course, they didn't get a recolor because they're a pureblood Heartless and that wouldn't make any sense. But those appearing in Halloween Town do have a different skin applied, making them fit in with that world style. And that goes for a lot of other Heartless too. We've also got the Gigas Shadow. It's a big shadow. Final Mix Edition, not going to go into the mechanics as I said. Nothing noteworthy to say design wise, but I like their lumbering walk animation on the journal. Also, I always thought Giga Shadow would roll off the tongue better than Gigas Shadow, which has a little too much ass in it. Then there's the cooler Neo Shadow, grown up shadows I guess. A little bit more intimidating, less cute, but very cool. Those long antennae and more defined face really come into play in that regard. I do like to think about seeing one of these in real life, wandering a dark path all you see initially is a vague shape, and eyes piercing through the night. I think they'd be quite creepy to witness. Those head veins are a little bit creepy too. Xehanort's no stranger to those. They've also bulked up and have that muscular look we see on a lot of the pureblood Heartless. Speaking of, another muscular pureblood is the Dark Side. A classic foe, maybe too classic by this point, as the games insist on making us fight them over and over. Still, they have a very cool design. The first we see with a big heart-shaped hole, this one being quite elongated. I do like this feature whenever it pops up, of course it being a literal visual indicator of the name Heartless. The Dark Side has a weirdly proportioned body, fitting of a dark being like him. Quite stumpy legs, long arms and half-formed wings, but the quote-unquote hair is my favourite part. The wild, chaotic mass of tentacles masking any potential mouth underneath. It's a very cool look. And no, the model doesn't have a smiley mouth underneath the hair, that tweet you may have seen is fake. Now onto the Traverse Town gang. The soldier here is the first of our recolored Heartless, so what I'll do for these is talk about the main design, regardless of colour, and then compare to the original. This thing on the journal is jittering around like crazy, so let's pause this. Here we see our first case of the Heartless swirl eyes. Well, not really eyes, the yellow circles are still there, but rather those square spirals I guess, on the helmet. For the soldier this could be interpreted as holes to see through the helmet if it was down. But we'll see this swirly pattern again and again with the Heartless throughout the series. It's often used to give the impression of eyes. There's also the helmet itself which curls around at the tip, it's the same with the feet. Again, we'll see plenty of this sort of design, it's a Heartless staple. And since this is an emblem Heartless, there's the emblem front and center. It's also sort of there upside down on their knees. And even on the palms you can see a shadowy emblem outline. These guys like to represent their faction it seems. Now, to compare to the original, if there's one thing I liked about Rechain of Memories, it's that it gave me a chance to see the old Heartless colours again. Oh, how I missed them. We can peek the journal entry in Recom here to see the old variant. The blue and purple scheme of the original soldier suited Traverse Town better in my opinion. The recolor isn't bad by any means, just unnecessary. That honestly goes for most Heartless who got a recolor. The new one is usually fine, I just wish there was a toggle option. I guess it's also the helmets and wrist guards. They just look better in a clean silver, as opposed to a washed out gold. I'm glad they kept the vicious looking red claws though. Air soldiers are among the most irritating enemies in the game. The design is quite obviously meant to look like an old fashioned pilot. See those goggles and the helmet with a propeller like you'd find on a plane? Otherwise they're quite similar to the soldier in appearance. And they too were recolored, in a kinda opposite case to their grounded counterparts. See, the soldiers went from blue and purple to browner tones, and the air soldier lost the brown and became mostly blue. It's a shame that we don't have a match. Like, man, can we stick to one scheme here? The recolor is again fine, and it matching the old soldier colors is cool I suppose, but I'm not a fan of how they changed the wing shape to be more curved and bat-like. I think the straight edges fit with the vintage plane design better. Stealth Soldier is simply a recolored soldier. The colors are pretty nice. I'm not sure about those red shoes going with the rest of the greens and blues, but it's not bad, and most importantly, it doesn't replace the original. The last in the Traverse Town Garrison, large bodies have an unfortunate name. Hey, your size doesn't define you. They are, as the journal describes, big round Heartless. They do have an interesting design though, with a piece of thin clothing clearly too small for them, laced around the front. Their helmet is quite goofy looking, but what aren't are those handcuffs and chains. Now, just what did the large body get up to need these? It's a random inclusion, and the thinking too deep part of my brain does like to wander, but I'll repress it for now. As for the final mix changes, it's just like the soldier really. I preferred them as they were. The purple suit and yellow trim was just more striking, whereas in final mix they're generally more bland. Here he is, the monument to all of Final Mix's sins. Guard armor got absolutely the biggest downgrade to his look in my opinion, and I love the movements, and the idea of a suit of armor pulling itself apart to attack. The intimidating presence it has too. Well, it was intimidating back when it was purple themed. Now it just looks like a clown. Oh, it's unfortunate. Honestly, even turning it silver would have been fine, since it would match the original soldier helmets, and just generally be more fitting for a suit of armor. But nope, they had to stick unnecessary blue, yellow and red that wasn't there before. It's a classic case of too many colours, and if you've watched my Keyblade videos, you know how I feel about that. The only thing I can see being argued in the palette swap's favour is that the 3rd district is multicoloured like this, but I don't think that excuses it, to be honest. Oh, and one other thing, the Heartless emblem on the guard armor's back is actually upside down, as later the torso becomes inverted, and that becomes the front of opposite armor. And speaking of, here it is. Opposite armor is a lot like my old friend Mr. McGreg, with a leg for an arm and an arm for a leg. Well, actually 2 of those each, but I just wanted to make that reference, don't judge me. His claws flatten and feet snap inwards to form hands that look like the ones Lego figures have. Then his faceplate snaps down to reveal those glowing eyes. I also found it cool how they did this boss fight, and even though he's actually a bit easier than guard armor, the idea of switching a familiar boss up to fight something with brand new moves is a good one. It's just a shame they both look so tacky now. Something strange about the Colosseum in KH1 was how some boss Heartless reappeared, but with different colours. Final Mix kindly decided to give them new entries in the journal. So we're left with Red Armor, who really looks more pink, but let's call it a lightish red. It's fine, not quite as effective as the darker purple, but at least it doesn't look like a mess. Opposite Armor also appears in the tournaments, but he's just the same as he was. Didn't get this saving grace of pinkness. So I'm going to lump these musical Heartless into one section because they're all reskins of a single design, and sensibly didn't get any final mix changes. We have Red Nocturne, Blue Rhapsody, Yellow Opera and Green Requiem. The colours relate to the magical affinity of each, and the second names are types of music. Rhapsody in Blue was a composition used in Fantasia 2000, for example. The hat has a mage look to it, probably intended to be similar to the black mage hats of Final Fantasy, and sporting the classic Heartless curl at the top. They also have little stick-like bird legs, which you don't always see. There's some other subtle differences too, In Final Mix, another member of the family came along, the Black Ballade. Its hat is a little more fancy with what looks like sharp throwing knives on it, or something else. I don't know what these are supposed to be. The hat also curls differently to its comrades. Here we have one of the strangest Heartless designs out there, the Trickmaster. This is for a multitude of reasons. The scissor legs, papery folding arms, heads all stacked up on top of each other. But most of all for me, it's actually those extremely thin, tapered fingers. They're kind of uncomfortable. The original colours were far better, red and black suiting Wonderland very well. You know, the suits of cards are red and black. The redesign, I suppose, fits with the pink tones of the Bizarrum, but it looks far less intimidating like this. It's not quite to the degree of the guard armor, since this guy is zany by default, but it's still worse. Reject Darkness, return to Monkey. Power Wild is very simple in design. A Heartless monkey. I don't actually know what else to say about it, it's simply well done. But yeah, of course there's the redesign. The new one is fine, just fine. Honestly, there's nothing really wrong with it, the colours work decently together. I prefer the blue one, but that may be mostly nostalgia. I mean, if the yellow one was the original, I'd probably prefer that. So, you know, it's whatever. But it was nice seeing the blue ones again in Cage 3. Bouncy Wild is the result of taking a Power Wild and trying to make it feminine, which I guess worked if you're going by a conformist view of things. They've got a slimmer body, earrings, and a bow. I mean on their head, the weapon is a slingshot. The pink certainly adds to that female stereotype, which is why I prefer the original in orange, which the Power Wild then ended up being closer to. See, it's just like with the soldiers. They even bothered to change the slingshot's band colour, which I find amusing. We can't forget the Sniper Wild, not a particular favourite amongst the community. I'm sure many expletives have replaced the wild in its name. See, this one is mostly pink, so why did they need to change the bouncy? Never mind. There's the addition of stripes on the body and tail, but yes, otherwise it's a simple recolor, so little for me to talk about here. This goddamn piece of family-friendly word lizard. This is the only thing to kill me more than once on no death runs. But we're here to talk about looks, not cruelty. It's a horned chameleon. I do especially like the chameleon eyes that look in all directions. The ridges on the back are pretty gnarly looking, and I think it's a good design overall. The name is kinda dumb though. Stealth Sneak? It's like calling something Steel Thief or Melee Brawler. Hey, come up with your own Stealth Sneak style Heartless in the comments below. Now, big shocker here, but I actually prefer the recolor this time around. Savor that because I won't say it very often. Yeah, the original made perfect sense. It's got a camouflage pattern and it turns invisible. But the yellow and green is a pretty sickening color combo to look at, and I quite like the line markings on the new one. Besides, we still managed to retain the camouflage pattern with the Colosseum variant of this, the Sneak Army. It's a black and grey version of the original colours. I think it looks cool, that's about it. Oh wait, it is kind of funny when its health is depleted and just slumps there with its eyes rolling wildly. The reason for this is because you can't actually kill it permanently in the first boss. You have to defeat Clayton, right? So the Colosseum ones just lay there, but they don't regain their health. White Mushroom is the nice guy, and what I find interesting about the design is that the body looks like a jumper. That's a British term. Like a sweater, basically. This leads me to question what a Mushroom Heartless without this would look like. Same goes for the Mushroom 13 in Cage 2 without the coats. Probably very cursed. Its hat also has that good old Heartless swirl. Black Fungus is the same thing, but with darker colours and is very mean. There's a cool detail to point out with the Halloween Town one having a stitched hat. Rare Truffles on the other hand have the addition of stars on their now yellow hat. Cool. And finally the pink Agaricus, which is mostly green, but the hat is pink, so I guess that works. I actually really like that mint green colour. It's got hearts on its hat and seems to be some sort of dancer. Just look at this thing go. Quite an irritating Heartless at times. The bandits are the soldier type of Agrabah, and I think they have a pretty nice design. I love the extra details of jewellery, rings and bangles, plus curved swords are always cool. Honestly, I could take either version of these, both the blue garments of the original and the warmer colours of the final mix work well in my opinion, so I can't pick a favourite. I'd really like to see Fat Bandits come back someday. They've always been among my favourite Heartless, so hopefully we get a fire-themed world again. But yeah, anyway, the design, it's a reskinned large body with pointier shoulders, wristbands instead of handcuffs. Well, you can see the differences for yourself. I don't think I need to do an Ansem and Xemnas and spell it out. When it comes to comparing the two versions, I would say the original is better, yes. The colours just complement somewhat more with it. The final mix isn't bad though. At least they kept a warm colour for the jacket. First up in the pot family are the spiders, though not a particularly accurate name given they only have half the required number of legs. Still, they have a nice simple design. It's a pot taken over by the darkness. They're apparently an emblem Heartless, though we can't see the emblem. Maybe it's inside the pot on whatever dark entity may be hidden within. The pot scorpion is similar, but in addition to the now blue legs, we have claws and a tail. We can also see the Heartless eyes this time, so I guess pot spiders probably have them too. And I very much like this design. Might be my joint favourite Final Mix exclusive Heartless, alongside another one we'll see later. Scorpions are just such a cool animal. I mean, they look so deadly with not only claws but a stinger too. They're packed with weapons and I admire that. So yeah, this guy's no exception, despite also lacking the correct number of legs. Finally, the pot centipede. The pot spiders that make up the body are actually different to the usual in that they only have 2 legs. Then that annoying head and thorax make for a dangerous boss on Proud. I appreciate how the eyes are a little more bug-like on this Heartless. Pot meet barrel. They have a similar spider creature inside, though now we can see one eye peeking out and it has pink legs. A nice detail is that the barrel textures vary a bit depending on world, with the Monstro ones being a little darker than the others. So I wasn't too sure where to put these guys. The journal says they mostly appear in Atlantica, but that's not really true. These guys haunt a lot of places. The design is definitely on the Halloween Town side of things, an eye dangling out on the chain, the eyes themselves having that heartless swirl, which gives them a bit of character, I feel. They'd arguably be creepier with purely yellow eyes, but I like them just the way they are. The left eye socket quivering about is a nice touch too. Then seeing through the side of the body and glimpsing at metallic ribs, that's another excellent detail. But to me, these guys also resemble puppets, which means they fit in with Monstro pretty well too. Of course, we're back to a recolored emblem Heartless, and this one is okay, but I still prefer the original with its darker purple body and white head and hands. The pumpkin orange on the Final Mix head makes sense for Halloween Town, but it's less ghostly this way. Another recolor that isn't offensive, but simply not as good. And then the Grand Ghost, who has one of the coolest Heartless names, honestly. I mean, imagine being the Grand Ghost, you know? Or is it just me? Well, whatever, I like it. The damn icon on it for the journal gives it a sassy look. Like it's saying, oh, too impatient and used your elixir on Goofy, huh? That's too bad. This ghost has a red coat and gives off a yellow glow. It also can't decide whether its eye is in or out of the socket, apparently. We have the boss of Monstro, designed to look like some sort of parasitic creature. This thing matches the theme of being inside the innards of a giant whale pretty well. And hey, the darkness is kind of a parasite when you think about it. Yes, the cage part comes into play with the bottom half, which has its own eyes and the bars of the cage acting like the teeth of a mouth. The head, though that's a shaky definition, it has its own mouth and eyes too. They managed to keep that disgusting look, but I do prefer the pink and blue classic as the colours match up better to what we've seen in Monstro already, and it flows better as a design in my opinion. Oh, and I like the rubbery protrusions on the back of the cage. Very nice way of getting the point home that you can't hit it there. I saw mentions of how this looks similar to the prison cage from Final Fantasy IX, and yeah, given the name and appearance, it may well have been based on that monster. Next up is Atlantica's crop of Heartless, starting off with the little squishy sea neons. Guys, let's not lie to ourselves here. There's very little for me to say about these jellyfish. The Heartless head being inside a bubble is a cool design choice, though that Heartless emblem in front of the eyes seems like an oversight by the Darkness engineers. They did well at making these things look like they'd be made of jelly, and I applaud that. Oh, and sheltering zones are big versions of these, so yeah, great, whatever. The Screwdiver is an expected merman-based Heartless design, with some twists. Mainly the head, right? It's this long cone with a propeller at the end, and it manages to combine a bunch of undersea elements. The propeller being that of a boat, the shape is very torpedo-like, and then the fins and the mouth representing a fish, with the Heartless swirl eyes acting as said fish's eyes, while the real Heartless eyes are inside the mouth. I honestly think these look great, and thankfully they weren't recolored pink and orange or some other ungodly combination. These, on the other hand, were recolored. Aquatanks are big anglerfish, but with uncomfortably arm-like flippers. These were originally blue, and I think they should have stayed that way to match with the accompanying screwdivers, but it is what it is. The red and brown isn't bad, I suppose. Finally, a reskin of both of these appears as a special encounter in Neverland. The jet balloon has a decent looking colour scheme, and now the screwdivers are blue, matching the original Aquatank colours. Man, Final Mix was something else. Also, the name Missile Diver suits their torpedo heads, so there's that. The journal actually mistakenly says driver instead of diver here, but I guess that's an easy mistake to make. So, a white is the name for a kinda undead creature, right? And whoever came up with the name of this Heartless must have been very proud of themselves. Not only is it a pun on white, as in colour, knight, but also they've got a head that looks a bit like a bandaged knight helmet, a classic Heartless curl at the tip of the head, a ribcage similar to that on the Search Ghost, and long spindly limbs all make this a very fitting Heartless for Halloween Town. The journal shows the Halloween skin version, but in the render you can see how they're a lot more vibrant elsewhere. In the original game, the Halloween Town roughness was there by default, and the bandages were white, not yellowed. So yeah, I do prefer these to the Final Mix recolours, which makes them too bright outside Halloween Town for me. Does what it says on the tin, it looks like a gargoyle. Very Nightmare Before Christmassy these, just look at those striped horns. A creepy little detail is how their jaws are just barely attached. And the same thing with the knights, the recolor looks alright in Halloween Town, but outside it I find these just too colourful, especially those bright green arms. Purple just makes more sense to me. It's cool that some of these lie in wait on the architecture of Oogi's manor. Hey, here we have a Final Mix exclusive Heartless with a unique design, how nice. And what a cool design it is. This is a bit of a more Frankenstein creation with metal parts, jars of green fluid, a papery arm, and a mean looking claw. Inside the jar that makes up the top part are three little heads with their own appearances. One looks a bit like Jack Skellington's head, another is a jack-o'-lantern, and the final has those spiral eyes that remind me of the Search Ghost. Interestingly, there's no yellow eyes to be found anywhere on this Heartless. That piece of machinery connecting the body and legs is one of my favourite bits of design with this. The Chimera is the other favourite special Heartless that I hinted at earlier. Chimera comes from the name of a mythical creature comprising of various animal parts, so it's fitting. They weren't messing around with the name when they designed these Heartless. Pirates. That's all that they need to call these, and yeah, they look like pirates. It's actually a very cool design here. The skulls on the shoulders, I appreciate those. The head is covered not only by an eye patch, but a stereotypical pirate bandana, to the point where you can't see any yellow eyes, so a swirl takes their place on his left side. I do also like how they have this stitched together look, and how the sword has a face of its own, and a rather disapproving one at that. And what luck, the pirates didn't receive any changes in Final Mix. I'm not entirely sure why, since they seem like they'd get a recolor, like most of the other emblems, but hey, I'm not going to complain. Just as a soldier in the air is an air soldier, we have air pirates. Don't get them confused with sky pirates. These guys share the skull-bearing shoulders, but are real brawlers with very oversized forearms like Popeye. Again, these look like pirates, but we can see their eyes this time at least. And you know, I don't mind the recolor in this case at all. I think it makes some sense to change them from purple and blue to something more in line with Captain Hook's ship, and with the ground pirates, so hey, I'll cast a rare vote for the Final Mix version here. And then one of the Heartless said, screw it, let's just be the pirate ship. According to the journal, it's a Heartless fused with a ship, but I don't quite understand that. Was it a tiny ship? Jiminy, what exactly is your source for this? Yeah, that's a bit weird, but here we can see quite a complex design with plenty of appropriate items, an anchor up front, oars for when it's doldrums, and a big sail sporting the Heartless emblem. Not gonna lie, I would have liked to have seen the emblem on a pirate flag instead, but whatever. There's also a propeller on top, which seems odd, but I think it's there to make the idea that these can fly more believable, which they didn't need to do given other Heartless just float, but I can still appreciate the thought. The little toy captain is fun too. What I can't appreciate is the recolor. Why would they decide to make the ship pink? It looks so much worse than the original. I mean, sure, if you wanted to change the colours up, then by all means, give us a white sail. Change those spikes at front, fine. But changing the wood to be pink is just too much, and undoubtedly makes these look worse in comparison. The whimsical Shadow Sora pops up a bunch after Riku creates it, leaving Sora without a shadow on the ground for the time being. It's simply an all-black Sora model with a low poly effect. It isn't in the journal, so I can't show it there, and the same goes for its successor, Anti-Sora, which is more detailed and actually has yellow Heartless eyes. That's about all that needs to be said though. Now for the Dark Ball. Isn't that a fun thing to say, Dark Ball? Yeah, well, this is a pureblood Heartless that means business. Look at this thing, it's monstrous. It has these beady eyes that just pierce into you, and it truly looks like something that doesn't belong in our world. I think it's a great design. In Halloween Town it looks even better as it loses all colour and becomes even darker. Good stuff, and they managed to capture the concept art pretty perfectly. Hollow Bastion has some really cool Heartless. They're so ancient looking, unlike some of the nonsense we got in Cage 2. The Defender was a great gotcha moment. I'm sure many of us, when first greeted by these, quickly assumed it was a dog creature, before getting closer and seeing the man behind the shield. Though, given the yellow eyes on the shield and swirly replacements on the man, I can't help but feel the shield is the true face. Or maybe it's like the pirate and the Defender's realizer underneath the armor. I don't know why I'm even thinking about this. Point is, it's a very unique and interesting design. The dog face looks creepy and the highlights of yellow really make the design pop. What's nice too is these weren't recolored at all. Unfortunately, the same doesn't apply to the Wyvern. Now, these aren't complex designs, simply a Heartless version of a Wyvern, which is essentially a dragon without front legs. The kind you see in Skyrim, for example. I really love that their head and shoulders look to be made of metal armor. I also like those small, determined and frankly angry eyes. And yes, the blue and muted yellow colors look good, and certainly match the Defenders, but man, I miss the red Wyverns. The red hues are just so nice on the original version, not to mention how it resembles a classic red dragon. The new one is fine, I guess, but whenever I see the OGs in Chain of Memories or Melody of Memory, it just brings back memories. Wizards, like the Defender, were spared from the great Heartless redesign of December 2002. To be honest, I always saw these as more witches given the hat. Looks more like a witch hat than a wizard one, but as I said earlier, let's not stereotype. Just as you can get a Defender shield for Goofy, Donald can nab himself a wizard staff if he's lucky. These Heartless can be quite annoying, but I gotta admit, they look very, very cool. And hey, you can just avoid doing finishes on them to stop teleporting antics, but that's a mechanical point, so shh. Alright, in Final Mix they decided to split Behemoths into 3 types. First up we have the standard one that you meet at the end of Hollow Bastion. It's big, it looks dangerous, I love those oversized tusks. The blood red horn is quite striking too. The old purple colour scheme will always be nostalgic for me, but this redesign is good too, especially the horn. Then there's the confusingly named Destroyed Behemoth. I say confusing because this thing is more powerful than the original, but it's named Destroyed. I guess what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Also yes, the flames give it a look of destruction, but let's be honest, this thing does slightly resemble a kid's racing car, or the car of a man suffering a midlife crisis. It's just a bit silly and is definitely my least favourite of these 4 designs. Then finally the Arch Behemoth, which again doesn't make much sense to me, as Arch would imply it being a greater being. When you have something like an Archmage for example, they're the highest in the order. Yet this is the weakest Behemoth, found in End of the World. I don't know what they're thinking there was. It's like these names are the wrong way around. But yeah, it swaps the orange flames out for blue, so it's a bit less tacky than the Colosseum counterpart, but still a lesser design than the 2 versions of the original Behemoth. One of the coolest Heartless designs in the series, in my opinion, is that of the Pureblood Invisible. They're so good, I mean look at them. They have the heart-shaped hole of the muscular pureblood body, a very evil and satanic face, similar to the Dark Ball. Little angel wings on the arms implies something deeper there, and the actual wings are cool too. Even the tail isn't content with just being a regular tail. And of course, let's not forget the eyebrow-like protrusions forming a dark crown with a heart shape. Fantastic design. And as I've mentioned before, the sword has kanji, translating to hardcore written on the blade. There's even a vague crown symbol there, and it's just a very uniquely shaped sword in general. The Invisibles were such a cool design that we'd see an upgraded boss version later on in Kingdom Hearts 3, with the Dark Inferno. No recolor for this, I don't think the Kingdom Hearts team were quite that sadistic. End of the World's other newcomer is the Angel Star. A very interesting idea, having a Heartless use light. Hell, it even says they're born of holy spells, whatever that means. I want Angel Star lore, damn it. Well, either that or Jiminy just loves to embellish. But yeah, these angels have quite an abstract design. 3 eyes is very different to most Heartless, and the elongated head gives some very weird vibes. I'm not exactly sure what those vibes are, but they're weird. The body resembles a light bulb, which I didn't really think about before, but yeah, with the glass casing and that zigzag filament, it makes sense. You could also see that filament as a mouth if you like. The way the wings are joined to the body and the spinning rings at the bottom give this Heartless a somewhat robotic appearance too. They look good, but they have looked better in my opinion. I just think the yellow and cream colours on the original make more sense for what they wanted to achieve here. The new one is good too and still looks angelic. I just prefer it the way it was. They don't have a journal entry because you only see them after the final rest, but let's not forget the Bit Snipers, summoned by Ansem during the World of Chaos phase when he says, "Come forth." These little guys are, no joke, one of my favourite Heartless in the game. They're just really cool and unique, with a teardrop-shaped body and long, sharp wings. Also visible are veins similar to the Neo Shadow that point downwards, making them look like an angry set of eyebrows. And I actually think these are one of the cutest things in Kingdom Hearts, seriously. I want a plush of one even though they're but a tiny footnote in the library of Kingdom Hearts enemies. Bring back Bit Snipers, Nomura, I don't care, I need to see these adorable Heartless again. Kurtzisa is just an amazing boss fight, and the design plays into that a lot. The way it moves and the sounds it makes give it this robotic feel. The 6 arms, the Kopesh, swords that it holds, being fairly close to the setting of Aladdin, though they're Egyptian rather than Arabian. The head is obviously Jafar's Cobra staff, and the closest thing we get to fighting Cobra Jafar, outside a mobile game that's thankfully ending soon. I'm getting off track. Yeah, I like those orange things hanging off the waist. Not sure what they are, but they look cool. I also love how the neck swings the head around wildly during the damage phase, and then retreats into the body, making me think of the Kurtzisa as a long snake inside a metal frame. And nobody can see this boss without being told by someone, "Hey, did you know that's named after a person in New York who won a contest to have their name?" Yeah. We all know by now. But if you didn't somehow, well, now you do. And thank goodness Kurtzisa wasn't redesigned in Final Mix. I mean, he wasn't in the original version for Japan, but there's another boss that wasn't either, and he still got redesigned. And that boss is the Phantom. This is a very creepy looking Heartless. The movements and the fact it has no face or body, just this ethereal cloak and a visible heart. It's weird to see the actual heart when facing Emblem Heartless, so the Phantom definitely gets some points for uniqueness. Man, those spiky fingers too. Just an amazing design really. I love this concept art as well. Of course, we can see the changes made in Final Mix, and it's not a bad change. I think I just about prefer the original because it's a darker look overall, but there's no denying the white looks good, especially how it swirls into the darker sleeves. Ultimately, it's very close, I like both. But the original design is very rare. It only exists in the original English PS2 game and the concept art. I was going to talk about one last Heartless here, that being Ansem Seeker of Darkness himself, but as I got to writing I thought to myself, you know, I have a lot to say about Ansem and his many forms, so I think I'll save that for a different video, maybe even one purely dedicated to him. He is my favourite character after all. Since the Dark Figure isn't actually a Heartless, and the World of Chaos could fit under that Ansem video, I figure that's everything. Overall, I personally believe that KH1 has the best Heartless designs in the series. The pureblood Heartless here are wonderfully designed, and give off such evil and sinister vibes. But even the emblems aren't too goofy or silly. Yeah, there's elements of that here and there, but compared to KH2, the Heartless here feel far more of a threat. And yeah, there's story reasons for that too, but I just think they're designed a lot better and more creatively here. It's also clever how they created some Heartless that can fit the themes of multiple worlds, like the Search Ghost or the Barrel Spider or Dark Ball. They aren't too tied to a single theme that they can only appear reasonably in one place, Colosseum notwithstanding. This means they could save on resources when creating the game, which is nice. As far as the Final Mix recolours go, look, in most cases I'm going to prefer the originals, There were some exceptions as you saw, but mostly I think the recolours are either just different but not better, in which case nostalgia will win, or they're genuinely worse and at times have horribly clashing colour schemes. I think the guard armour is absolutely the worst offender. Others like Trickmaster and Battleship are up there too. Anyone who knows me knows that the recolours trigger me, so I do hope a modder on PC is able to provide the classic looks back into the 1.5 remix, perhaps using the Chain of Memories models where possible. I would love a mod like that. Which Heartless from this game are your favourite, and also what do you think about the final mix recolours? Let me know in the comments. This video was sort of based on the Keyblade ones I've done, so check those out if you like. But I've wanted to talk about these reskinned Heartless for a long time now, so I'm glad to get that off my chest. Kingdom Hearts 2 final mix followed in this game's suit, so let me know if you'd like to see me cover that too. As far as BBS's Unversed goes, I'm afraid I never played the original game, so I can't comment on those changes. And I decided to return to making a script for this video. With so many Heartless to get through, I thought it best to organise my thoughts and avoid repetition as much as possible. It was fun, to be honest. I want to write scripts again, and I think it's time to return to that format where appropriate. So yeah, links and things, I guess. Twitter, I use that. Patreon, I have that ready and waiting if anyone wants to be generous. Second channel, that's for playthroughs and stuff. Twitch for recording what inevitably becomes those playthroughs. And Discord for hanging out and silly competitions we do sometimes. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.